Hi everyone, this is Aki with another tax video on the most frequently used tax form, and we're going to talk about the form 1099G, which is an unemployment compensation or taxable state tax refund form. So this form can have different items on it, and most frequently used items on the form is the unemployment compensation and state or local income tax refunds. And that form also frequently has federal income tax withheld. So it's very important, if you do receive it, to submit it with your tax returns, because you might actually get some money back if you had enough withholdings. This form reports all kinds of payments made by federal, state, or local government. So you will know at the top of your form, who issued that form to you. And just want to mention, and I'll go over it box by box information regarding the unemployment. Just wanted to mention that, in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, 10,200 of unemployment income per taxpayer was not taxable, but for 2021, for tax year 2021, that was actually back being taxable, the whole unemployment income. So it's important to keep that in mind, because most of the time it's always taxable, unless you don't have a filing requirement. But in 2020, during the pandemic, it was 10,200 was not. So, if your situation changed, like for many people, they might have received that form first time and they think it's similar situation this year, but it might not be the case. So it's important to enter it in tax software and find out if some of the payments taxable or not. So now let's go over the box by box information on the 1099G. Now, you have a year right here that shows you, for which year it was issued. It must be issued if you received at least $10 unemployment or state tax refund, but you might receive even less and still get the form. You should receive it by January 1st. Some have been delayed. Now, some states now want you to go into your account online and print the form yourself. So it's very important to do that, because many people come to do their tax preparation and I ask them, oh, did you receive an unemployment income? They're like, yeah, but there's no 1099G. And so they shouldn't file unless they have it, because that means not all income is going to be accounted for, and they might have, might be short. There might be penalties and interest for being short, and they might have to maybe amend if the IRS doesn't do the correction for them, and so on. So it's important that if you have received it, to have this form with you. At the top, with all the forms, I'm using this form. This is like a dummy that I'm doing for Jane. So at the very top, like I mentioned here, you will know who issued the form for you. And then it's the payer's TIN, which is the tax identity number, which is kind of like a social for, corporations, big companies, and so on. And here is the social for Jane, and there'll be your social, and then the address, make sure it's correct, and then the account number, because you might have a couple of, whenever you have more than one form from the same place, they do provide like an account number to distinguish between the form, that it's for two different things, that it's not a duplicate. And then let's go to the boxes. So at the very top, as I mentioned previously, it's an unemployment compensation. This is the most frequent usage of 1099G. So up to 10,200 was not taxable for 2020 per taxpayer, but in 2021, everything was taxable. So it's important to distinguish that difference, from 2020 to 2021. Now, many states, when you have unemployment with your state, require you to have some withholdings, at least 10%. You can also opt in to have more withheld if you know that you had other income from other sources that might bump you into higher tax bracket, so you don't want to be short. So that would be in box 4, the amount that was withheld throughout the year, and that's basically it's your prepayment of income tax. So this is important to put that in when you're preparing a tax return or you're giving the form to a professional, that you have paid some of the income tax already. Now, box 2, it's state or local income tax refunds, credits, and offsets. So it may be taxable. It really depends on the situation from prior year. So in prior years, so for let's say for this is for Jane for 2021. So in 2020, the question is how, when she filed her taxes, did she use standard deduction, which means like she didn't itemize her state and local taxes, real estate tax, and so on, or did she itemize? If she itemized and she got credit for paying state and local income taxes, and then she got a refund on top of that, that means that maybe she shouldn't have deducted as much, and some of that refund may be taxable year later, which is 2021 right now. So the most important thing to know is basically to put that in. The software will figure out for you, and you have to probably answer questions if it's like the first time you're using a software and they don't know what you have used, standard or itemized deduction. It might ask you those questions, so it's good to have handy the prior year tax return, basically 2020 in our case. For most people, like now, about 90% of people use standard deduction. So most of the time, it's not a big deal when they receive, some income from state refunds, because they've used standard deduction prior year. But it's important to recognize that it could be if you're itemizing. Now, box 3. Now this basically shows like if you received a refund, state refund or so, but not for the prior year, but another year, it would specify the year right there. Then box 5, it's some less frequently used item, but box 6, taxable grants, that could be important because maybe you had received grants that are taxable, and they would be listed here in box 6. And box 7 are agricultural payments, so less frequently used, but for people who are in maybe in farming, and so this would matter as well, and they would go under tax return. Now box 8. Okay, so this could refer if the payment in box 2 would be associated with a business income. So that would completely go differently on your tax return. So it's important, if it is checked, make sure you mark it so in tax software as well. And those are the most important items on the form. And then the state information. Now that's also important actually, because some states, box 10, A, B, and 11, that actually refers to state information. And even though on some other forms, like we talked about, that sometimes the state information is not filled out and not really used, actually on the 1099-G, you can see it frequently as well. Some, taxpayers also withhold on the unemployment compensation specifically. They do have state withholding. So that also is very important, because this is a credit towards your state tax liability. So you want to make sure you put that in when you do your taxes. So those are the most important items. Now, there's also a link at the bottom left if you want to have more information about each of the boxes, the ones that I talked less about that are maybe applicable to your situation. There's a link to a booklet that's a PDF on IRS website, and it's right at the bottom of it. So hopefully this clarifies some of the information and that you might need to file your taxes if you receive 1099-G. So thanks so much for watching.